Welcome to a collection of short stories written and performed by participants with the Reimagine 2020 project with Derby Theatre. A Marrow for Teddy. Written by Ruth Denny. Performed by Brianna Undy with additional voices from Daisy Scarffe.
There's a hushed sense of reverential awe in the air tonight. It's September, and the harvest is in. Colours spread across the glorious patchwork of beds cascading across the hillside. Watering cans and Wellington boots are cleaned and ready. The produce is washed, measured, weighed. One more night to fight off the slugs. Then it's Greenfield's allotment produce show. Victory could be yours. Victory will be mine. I have worked too hard for it not to be. Neve thinks I am ridiculous, the way I coax my runner beans to clamber up the canes and whisper to my strawberries to stretch and unfurl their leaves beneath the sun. She doesn't understand the joy my plants give me, how every leaf tells a story, every root digs down to your soul. I've told her. Journalists need to be able to write about things they don't understand. She just rolled her eyes. She did rearrange her shifts, though, to come and report on the show for the village newsletter. She's a sweetie. I told her it was good for her CV, but I'm hoping for something more. Gardening is in her blood, after all. I glanced at the beetroots, with their sticky red veins piercing the green leaves. It's a year ago today. My first ride in an ambulance. The first time I ever thought my heart might actually break. Turns out hearts splinter slowly, though, chipping off piece by piece. So yes, maybe I need Neve here tomorrow for moral support too. Teddy was so proud of our marrow. 19 inches long exactly. He stayed up all night to guard it against the slugs. He vowed nothing would get in the way of his victory. Except one moment we were queuing up to register the marrow, and I was chattering on about Maureen's raspberries, and the next, he was on the floor.
Mrs. Wildebeest,
They said. Yes, that's me, I said.
He's had a stroke.
They said.
With cardiac complications.
A week in the hospital. Barely any sleep. Every bunch of rosebuds a brutal reminder of that afternoon. And the marrow just lay where I had dropped it. Powerless against a militant onslaught of careless feet and hungry slugs. Teddy always liked to give orders. A trait left over from his days in the army, I suppose. He kept telling me he was fine, that I should go back and register the marrow, otherwise we couldn't win. I got frustrated. I told him the competition was over, it didn't matter. He got angry. He told me I didn't matter. They told me...
Oh, he doesn't mean it, Miss Wildebeest. It's just the shock talking.
Delirium, they called it. It lasted a week, and then suddenly I didn't have a prize-winning Marrow or a husband. The Village Widow Society sent me a formal invitation. I threw it on the compost heap. Now I spend my days here, relearning life lessons in tenacity and beauty. I dig up potatoes and remember how Teddy loved a Sunday roast. I water the marigolds and remember how he'd bring me flowers every Friday. I breathe in the life-giving scent of the allotment, and slowly the spark of hope returns. But I need to win tomorrow. For Teddy.
Changing Direction. Written by Lauren Winson. Performed by Robert Boyle.
As the carriage approaches a tunnel, I shut my eyes. Irrational to do so, I know. But the plunge into darkness unsettles me. I always worry that the train might get stuck. Instead, I picture the cafe where I've arranged to meet Amelia. I've not been for years. No money for a holiday. But I spent so many summers buying tubs of toffee ice cream to remember it clearly. Inside were shelves of seaside knickknacks and stalks of rock in jam jars along the counter, with rows of ice cream tubs behind glass. Once you'd rounded the street corner, ice cream in hand, you could glimpse a watercolour blue line along the horizon marking the tide. The gritty scent of an abandoned coffee cup reminds me of my parents drinking lattes in tall mugs when we popped into the cafe. Back then, my sister and I would eat ice cream and chunks of rock until our teeth and gums ached. I can feel it now. That saccharine sensation where your whole body is lightweight. Excitement, maybe. Or contentment. It's a feeling I'm getting used to since I started writing letters to Amelia. I can't remember feeling so connected to someone before. Not even with my last boyfriend, who I once thought I'd spend the whole rest of my life with. Air rushes in through the window when I open my eyes, relieved to see blurred countryside hurtling past. Part of me can't quite believe I'm actually doing this. Spontaneity has never been my thing. Well, I could have never booked this weekend stay in Northumberland without Gran's encouragement. Not that I'd ever call her Gran to her face. Gran makes her sound fossilised, she says, and insists I call her Marianne. She's had a heart broken too, Marianne. Though I'd be nervous telling her how I felt about Amelia. You'd think it'd be easier to say I was attracted to someone of the opposite sex for once. But I'm used to everyone referring to me as gay. It feels like I've been lying somehow, to feel otherwise. Marianne just said I should never feel I needed to hide anything from her. You have to take chances in life, Joseph, she said, her words crackling down the phone line. I hope she's right.
The next stop on this service will be Allenmouth in approximately 5 minutes. Please mind the gap when alighting from the train onto the platform. Next stop, Allenmouth.
That's me. My legs feel too stiff for standing up yet, so I stretch them slightly. Must have caught the woman opposite because she gives me one of those looks, and I smile apologetically as if I say sorry. About 4 rows down is the luggage rack. I can just about see my navy suitcase, and I make a show of putting on my duffel coat and beanie, so the businessman to my right might realise I'm going to depart soon. After the half-sitting, half-standing rigmarole of squeezing past the businessman, I shuffle down to the crowded aisle and make it to my suitcase in one piece. The doors open slowly. My rigid legs take me from the carriage to the platform. It's half empty as I make my way towards the exit. It all feels too real. Now I'm actually here. I'm miles from the sea still, but I can hear the rise and fall of the tide and the heavy sound of my heartbeat.
City Centre. Written by Karen Turnbull. Performed by Daisy Scarffe. With additional voices from Brianna, Undy and George Frost-Gilbert.
I have 4 days to finish packing up all my stuff in this flat, and approximately the same length of time to start. I look around at these 4 walls and memorise their existence, preparing for the inevitable questions I will face on my return home. Yes, I did have a roof over my head. No, I didn't get food poisoning. And yes, I did keep the flat clean. I smile at the predictability of it all.
A journalist here. I better watch my job with the newsletter.
Socks and Sandals Mike will laugh, and I'll reassure him he needn't worry, as I have no intention of taking over the newsletter. Going to uni was a controversy in itself, as, in the words of Miss Wildebeest, our highly opinionated next-door neighbour,
Such an act would be signing yourself off to be able to quote Shakespeare but being able to tell your left from your right.
brushing over the fact she herself went to university. Of course, it must have been,
Different back then.
as most things were. Home never feels particularly tolerant of my existence as a young person. I am too young to appreciate the value of a cake fork, and I'm too old not to have opinions of my own. Returning won't be a complete disappointment, though. I have missed watching the nervous tourists as they wait for the right moment to move their picnic blanket further up the beach, as they realise the sea is definitely not getting further away, and that the strip of sand they are sat on is slowly becoming the sort of sand too soggy to build sandcastles with. And of course, I miss the sound of the sea, watching it for hours on end, with an ignorant level of calm, and having pending tasks on a to-do list just wash away with every wave. I would wonder how far that wave travelled to reach this shore, and think it a shame that the wave should just collapse. I'm not sure how I'm going to slow down. Every morning you wake up in the city knowing that things have changed, that things are constantly moving even when you aren't. A village doesn't feel that same level of change in a year. I tell myself it will be like a holiday, not too long, and I can be back in the city, able to decide where I call home. I wish I didn't have to choose, that I didn't have to jump between the 2 parallel parts of my life at uni and life at home. But now I'm a graduate, and I'm moving back to the place where I grew up. But I don't truly feel that I belong.
Hiraeth. Written by Kai Bools. Performed by Imogen Uphill.
Aberystwyth, a small communal town at the end of the line. The final call. Here the train tracks cease, but journeys here have only just begun. Remember the greetings exchanged in the shadows of the square o' Wanglander? Borada, Sedacliba, Hapus iawn. Diolch yn fawr. Venda Deagig. How's it going, bot? Shmai Kaliad. I'll be there now in a minute. Nature had her own way of greeting those who called the town home. Gulls squawked and screeched, coordinating their dive-bombing attacks on those brave enough to carry food along the promenade. The Ustreth River, which stretches deep into the valleys, rushes and flushes into the Irish Sea. Welsh sand, soil and rock are reclaimed. It is gentle. Aqua blue softly caresses the shores, almost in an attempt to soothe and ease the growing pain. I feel like the distance growing between us. I can tell you're annoyed by my selfishness. You retaliate. Midnight blue viciously chews and spits sand, soil and rock right back out. I'm not too sure I remember what you look like anymore. My memory clouded. Starlings murmurate above the pier to free-playing violins. But even they come and go. Ebb and flow. The changing tides have perhaps changed you. I know they've changed me. Would I like what I saw? Or would it be a painful reminder of what I once had? Hiraeth. I am left longing for the days we would share a cutch huddled around the fire on the beach. Watching the flames dance and interlocked, slow dancing in a burning room. Or is it just the idea of you? Was I ever truly happy in your presence? Would you welcome me back, caress my skin? Or would you chew me in your depths, before forcing me out like a foreign object from your body?
It Can Be Both. Written by Molly Draper. Performed by Amelia Banks, with an additional voice from Georgia Quinn.
I close my eyes and focus on the feel of the cold, damp sand moving to fit around my feet, and the smell of salt and old seaweed floating about in the wind. I keep my eyes shut against the world and remember last year. We played cricket until the sea crept in and washed away the pitch we had made in the sand. Grandma sat in a silly red folded chair, watching over us all. We huddled around in blankets when the sun ran away, and then when it disappeared for good, we pulled out the fairy lights which sprinkled golden light on our faces. The pier was coated in bright lights which reflected into the dark black sea, and the beam of light from the lighthouse was interrogating it all night, keeping it at bay. I remember Daisy kept shouting,
15 minutes!
And then,
Guys, there's only 10 minutes.
Someone that always turns up late, she likes to make sure everyone keeps to her schedule. I remember taking a spare sparkler and drawing lines in the air and forgetting that anyone else existed because there was only sand and sea and air. I remember midnight and feeling so full of excitement that it almost spilt over into tears. And I remember Mum holding Grandma's hand. A sudden flash of light pulls me back to today, my heart racing with a sudden fear that softens quickly when I realise it's just the light from the lighthouse, now visible in the slowly fading light. I see someone walking along the grey concrete promenade. Her clothes are all dark, but nice, and she looks funny, walking in front of the colourful beach huts. I watch her face, and it seems to give nothing away. I want to ask her about her life and figure out what her eyes won't tell me. I want to sink myself into someone else's pain. I turn round towards the sea. It looks quite grey in the pale white light of the afternoon. Behind me, everyone is scattered around. Picnic blankets coat the ground. She wanted us all to wear colours. So did we. We probably looked like the rows of beach huts when we were all sat in the church, Rows of bright people with faces as grey as the promenade. There were lots of people at the church, but it's only family at the beach. We thought that would be nice, but it feels too intimate. At least before I could pretend that I'm putting on a brave face and talk to all her friends that I didn't really know. Now there's no reason. It's just us. It's just family. I take a deep breath and turn around. I can hear someone making a speech, but I check my phone to avoid searching for what I know isn't there. It's nearly 5 o'clock, which was when we decided to scatter the ashes. I walk up the beach towards everyone, but I don't see the sand or the people. All I can see is her, sat on the promenade, in her big red folded chair, watching over everyone. In my mind, she understands how cricket works and she's cheering us on, and at midnight she's up and her feet dancing and pointing at the fireworks. I keep reminding myself that it wasn't like that. She wasn't dancing, and she couldn't remember our names. She would just sit and smile. A constant comfort. When I reach everyone, I feel suddenly cold. It all hits me again. The absurdity of being in the most pain in the place that I love the most. I want to laugh, I really do. But the sound turns sharp in my throat and it won't move. I close my eyes and pretend it's New Year's Eve again. I feel the sparkler in my hand and the wind rushing against my face. But I can't quite remember the feeling. The world won't fall away. I'm stuck. I open my eyes as people start moving towards the sea, where
You got the poem!
Daisy is shouting to someone. I smile. Even now, she's keeping everything on track. I walk behind my brother, who's holding on to Dad like his life depends on it. The sand suddenly feels cold and uncomfortable beneath me. I imagine myself floating away in the water, which is a clear blue in my mind, and the pain that seemed to fill every inch of my body lessens slightly. One day, I think, I'll be spinning around with a sparkler and smiling, and the world will fall away again. And this place will be more than joy and pain. It will be both.
Living on the Verge. Written by Dhillon. Performed by Georgia Quinn.
Living on the verge of the ocean has always meant, for me at least, that physically and emotionally I'm on the edge. But with being on the edge comes a constant nearly, a build-up, and not so quite there, leading to my frustrations. Here, I'm really nothing but my dreams, and a collection of nostalgia that never really came to be, if there's even such a word for that. This night, well, just as any other night, I decided I'd walk along the pier. Take myself away. To see me. Just focusing my attention solely on the sea and the sky. The quirks of this nothingness. Blustering winds allowed gulls to soar above me, weightless in the air, suspended and squawking. As I neared the beach, the crash of waves overpowered the mind-numbing racket from the town's arcades, polluting my atmosphere. The surrounding summer greenery in its peak of vibrancy, thriving now, yet soon to disintegrate, rusty brown beneath my feet, upon arrival of autumn. I much preferred autumn, more understated and subdued of a time, often underappreciated as people grieve for their sweltering hot days. My attention soon drifted to other people around me. What filled the borders of their minds? What did they love so intensely? What did they believe? I thought about how strange an existence it is to be surrounded by so many people who we never really know or get to meet. We just pass by. A mass collection of human desires, judgments, and observations clustered in these streets and on these beaches. Never venturing beyond the perimeters of the norm. But at least we're thinking about it, right? I have always felt that life in all its complexities is, at times, too much for the mind to comprehend, let alone understand. It's just so much easier to remain distracted, and so not to question things. Perks and pleasures are always best left unexplained. I just get so caught up in all of life's transitions and progressions that nothing really ever seems to happen at all. I lose track in all the madness. But the tranquility found by the water is unmatched by any other place. It's always been my place. Well, selfishly, as if no one is really as strongly connected as me. The chimeric bond I have with the sea, pulling me in with its lulling tide. But a peach-like dusk fell on the bay, as I sat amongst the damp and salty stones and smooth sand, waiting for who would next catch my eye. Wine clutched aside. A girl. In the waterfront bar. She was singing a song that I'd never heard. Yet, her voice, it felt so close to home. With a melancholic, deep tone. I imagined I was up on the stand, in front of the mic alongside her, matching that soulful energy. Certain strangers, they just hit. Like a ray of light, the aura of their glow lingering for a little while after they go. I imagined we'd We'd bond well over distaste for overpriced coffee and love for cheap laughs and cheap thrills. Just diving deep into the depths of the infinity, green and blue, that grew tempestuously in agreement of the disruption within me. Just mirroring me. We revelled in the ocean's untamed beauty, hypnotised by the serenity beneath the wild surface, just floating, careless, alone. Sat with my bottle of red, we'd share stories beneath storms brewing over our dazed and hopeful heads. A scene so reminiscent of a romance movie. A secret love of mine that I'm sure she would have hated. We drove towards the horizon, breaking into a utopian sunrise, casting its renewing beams on our fatigued and weathered skin. But here I lay, and there she stood. And for now, that is how it will stay.
Mum's Sunset, written by Frank Wilson-Caines. Performed by Dhillon Bull.
I can see Mum's Arctic fox hair slowly bobbing towards me down the empty road that splits the campsite in two. I watch her as she comes. She looks well, tanned and lovely as ever. It feels weird not hugging her and kissing her on each cheek. Instead, we stand 2 meters apart and kiss the air twice. Mum sits on one bench, her favourite bench, and I sit at the farthest side of the one next to it. That's about 2 meters. And we both sit looking out at the sea. This is Mum's territory. Her queendom. She made it what it is. Raised me here. It's my home. She always says it'll all be mine when she's gone. I tell her to shut up because she's not going anywhere. She's the queen. I watch her looking at the bobbing boats tethered to the seabed. She's crying quietly. Doesn't want me to see. I want to hug her, but I can't because it's actually illegal. She's upset because the campsite's been closed for the past 3 months. She's scared that it will never open again. She lives for the campers. You should see her walking about chatting to everyone and anyone. Swiss, Spanish, Danish. As long as they can speak some French, Mum will natter with them for half an hour before remembering she's supposed to be in the little shop selling milk and bread, then ambling back to find a queue of campers, but they're never grumpy because who could complain about standing in the sun waiting for fresh bread from a cute old French lady? A lot of them come back every year. She could stand there catching up with them for hours. Granted, it's not the most efficient shop in the world, but it's a shop, nonetheless. To cheer her up, I tell her it's getting better now, that it won't be long until we can reopen. It won't be the same straight away, but it's only a matter of time. That makes her happier. Then, what really makes her happy starts to happen. The sun starts dropping. The great orange orb lazily approaches the water, burning the channel and the sky into an intense pink that lasts for half an hour before sinking into the sea. Usually, everyone on the campsite comes down to watch the sunset. Mum's sunset. But now it's just the two of us. There's something special in that, I think. I walk Mum back to her static home as the baps flap about in the cool darkness. We kiss the air twice and say goodnight. I get in my tatty old car, see the light turn on inside the house, then drive off home. I'll be back for tomorrow's sunset, and everyone after that.
Push or Pull. Written by Stephanie Pearl. Performed by Jessica Bates-Mcintyre.
I cry for you this early morning, daunting me, haunting me. I'm mourning. I am the sea, you're she, you're calling, you're killing me. Here is my warning. I was part of your body, a shore away from you now, sure of my last day with you, how you built over me, tarnished me with a mercenary brush, chained me, claimed me, crash, not crush. What have you done? Shackled wooden wrecks, built decks over my sands, wrote out checks for lost specks, passed money hand to hand, then took a rain check. You shook hands with the shack and you sold me out. Cast out, ocean pout, all out and about. You polluted my body, mass-scaled my parts and wore my seaweed, then surgically removed my earth bead for a penny and black-stained my hue, overfished on your ferry. Yet indeed, you broke my heart. But I cannot stand to be apart. I want you, not your rubbish. How dare you for my decay? How dare the pandemic for keeping us apart in this way? No push, just pull away from the sea. I miss you so much, humanity. From your beloved, the sea. Just me. Abreast of you, Eve. You smoked with me on Serenity sails. Many evening did we light up and throw back ales, throw back to Wales with you, Owen Griffith. A prolific freelance artist, a terrific lover with the thickest Welsh accent. And love. We built shelters in the Pacific for unwanted animals. Thereof sea life grew. From the lands above, a man of mythic, the Adam of sorts, had it all. The shelter, the success, the cities, and my ocean call. At rest, I believe in humans. But undressed by the hand of the chest, a sailor's shield for personal gain, a weary drought, dry stout, the downfall when I see you again. I miss you, humanity. Although, at the moment, I am very full. While I am furthest from you, I ask, which is stronger, the push or the pull?
The Horne One Desires. Written by Emma White and performed by George Frost-Gilbert.
An angel looks over the location. Home. A home which one desires to go back to when the rule of pandemic is over. A place full of love, and a place where an angel can look after those that belong to the home. In this case, home is a place full of love and family and friends. bedrooms fitting people and meals being shared between the individual people of the family. An angel looks over and follows how the home lives and how a family can connect. Each room in the home follows a different story, a story of truth and history, a place where one can relax and enjoy life in their own company. A kitchen is where the angel cooks and enjoys the social side of life. A place where the home can sit together and talk about the happy memories and how their everyday lives are going. This is the home that one desires. A place where love and happiness can be found. A place where one has a destiny to return to. A place where a target is reached out for. The angel will always look over and protect. The angel will tell the story and control the life of those living in the home. An angel has made a pact and has to follow that. Remember, home is the angel, and the angel steps in as home.
The Hopeful Roadtrip. Written by Kush V. Bolger. Performed by Hannah Spencer. With additional voices from Jessica Bates-Mcintyre and Georgina Quinn.
My road trip to the west of Ireland has been cancelled. I haven't fully accepted this yet. My friend Emma says,
It's for the best.
I know, to keep everyone safe. I completely understand this. There's bigger things going on in the world than my road trip. But the daydreaming of journeying up the wild Atlantic way would be my escape when I found out another bride wanted to change the design of her wedding cake.
Wow! Ooh, if you could just change this.
Yes, I am a wedding cake designer. A posh way of saying a baker of a cake that people don't eat because it looks too pretty. Ha! Seriously though, I love my job. The thought of adding a memory to a day people enshrine within their hearts until death do them part is what makes my job special. My love of baking began during my childhood. At school, my dyslexia made maths lessons execrable, so my amazing mum tapered the maths lessons to include weighing the flour onto the kitchen scale instead of using Pythagoras' theorem. But anyway, yeah, the Forever Cakes. That's the name of my wedding cake business. Well, actually, me and my uni friend Emma started it up 14 months ago. Then Miss Rona came and we had to close. The blood, sweat and tears I had poured into starting that business up from nothing, and it had to close so quickly. That's why I was looking forward to this road trip. Emma and me were taking our VW camper van from Derry to Cork, through every pub, tavern and bar in between. But Mum and Dad were still together. We used to stay at a campsite called America View. Apparently, on a clear day, you could see America from Galway, but I suppose that's the Irish gift of the gab for you. That's my reason for going. Me, Mum and Dad had all those memories. As a kid, the granite spurs of Connor soared into the sky, with its dirt road acting as a drawbridge in between. This was a fairy tale dream to a 5-year-old. Those precious family memories of spades and sandcastles. Me and Em have started a new life together. Our first family holiday together. That's why this road trip meant so much.
The Moon and Its Stars. Written and performed by Anisha Archer, with additional voices from Jessica Bates-Mcintyre.
Why did I agree to do this? We haven't spoken to each other in 5 years. What could she possibly want from me? The sky is pitch black and the car ride is silent, unlike the roads that surround us. There is nothing I want to do more than jump out of this moving junk of metal and run right back home. The injuries would be a lot less painful than this suffocating awkwardness. The roads look like one big game of Mario Kart, cars racing each other to the finish line, racers neck and neck to be first place. The streetlights cheer us all on as our engines roar in determination to win. A small smile forms on my lips at the thought. I check the time on my phone, and it reads 1:30. This brings back so many fond memories. We drive around the roundabout, taking the first exit, reading the signs pointing in our direction. I didn't think I'd ever go back here. My smile grows a little bigger. Leaving behind the busy A158, we cruise down the empty road. Our only company is the moon shining over us, its light bright and strong as the twinkling of the stars appear clearer to me. I wind the window down to get a better view of the sky, wanting to appreciate it in all its glory. The moon will always be better than the sun. Always. They don't leave us alone, the moon and its friends. They follow us further and further down the road. Taking a right turn into the town of Skegness, my new companions disappear. I search the dark sky for them, but not one luminous light is in sight. My heart saddens as we pull up in a parking space. The engine's roaring draws to a close as she twists the keys out. As much as my heart is pumping and beating in eagerness and excitement, my head is screaming at me in my stupid, immature impulse to sneak out with Marianne. My first crush, first love, first heartbreak. In bed. That is where I should be right now, snoring peacefully, dreaming about a life of thrills and adventures, a life that is far from my reality, yet one I crave so dearly. Marianne would call me a crazy dreamer whenever I would tell her about them. I still have no idea as to why she came knocking on my window in the early hours of the morning. It would be a lie if I said I wasn't happy to see her again. I hope she is staying sober. Working at that pub was never good for her drinking habits. Walking side by side, the silence is still deafening. The moon and its starry friends had returned. My smile reappeared at the sight. Slipping off our shoes, the sand seeps between our toes. The heavy scent of the salty sea invades my nose as I take in the scenery. Just the sound of the waves colliding into each other widens my smile. The moon's light glistens over the sea, causing it to sparkle in the dark of the night. This is why the moon is better than the sun. Marina inhales a shaky breath before turning to face me. As our eyes meet, my hands become clammy, my breathing is a little uneven, and a part of me wants the sand to swallow me whole.
There's something I need to tell you, Anastasia. I've been wanting to say this to you for the past 5 years, and, well, I got scared, but I'm ready to say it.
Why did you come knocking on my window at stupid o'clock in the morning? You know I have work at 8, and you most definitely know my parents would kill me if they knew I had sneaked out with you. I cut her off. It's sad, right? A 20-year-old girl who still lives with her parents.
I brought you here to tell you I love you. I love you, Anastasia, and I don't want to spend another second apart from you.